let's turn our attention to the Second Amendment, and I want to welcome for the first time to our show, and I see he's wearing a cap, Dick August. Dick, welcome to the dugout.
Hi, thanks. You're going to throw me a curveball, Mike? I'm a little concerned there.
I might. Depends if you get out of line or not. I'm more likely to throw you a beanball. What's the hat you got on today, Dick?
This hat says, I don't know if you can see it very well. Let's see. I plead the second.
Oh, okay. Very good. Well, we know you're a big Second Amendment advocate. You provide frequent testimony at the State House on Second Amendment issues. You are a NRA member, a member of the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition. You're also a firearms instructor. You write opinion pieces that have been published in the Providence Journal, letters to the editors and whatnot. And you're also a regular host, and I've been your guest many times on the great State of the State broadcast on Interconnect cable. So, Dick, we're very thrilled to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
All right, on the Ocean State Current, and I'll just show the people the article. If you go to our homepage, by the way, and you scroll down to constitutional rights issues, you can see here's the article you wrote for us a couple of weeks ago. It's based on, again, more taking away our rights by executive fiat. What did President Biden do now?
Well, in response to the tragic shooting we had 2 days before this, Mike, the president immediately comes out with, we got to have an assault weapons ban. And the fact is, if you look at assault weapons ban, we had a national ban for 10 years, from 1994 to 2004. And the Congress funded a study that showed, and the FBI agreed, there was no relationship between the ban and a reduction in violent crime. So that was the opening. But there are states that have assault weapons ban. One of them is Colorado, that has had numerous.
All right, let's stop right there. Stop right there. Before we even, the term assault weapon, is that the right term? I know it's a term the left uses, but what are we actually talking about here as far as weapons?
That's a good question, Mike, because an assault rifle is defined in the National Firearms Act, federal law, as a firearm, a rifle that can fire multiple rounds with one pull of the trigger. It has to be automatic. It's not a term that the Second Amendment folks dreamed up.
So that's how assault weapon is defined, as an automatic weapon.
No, it's assault rifle. So
assault rifle.
Right. So what the gun control folks has done is tried to broaden that into a term called assault weapons. So you could include handguns or shotguns, I suppose. It's a broader term, but in the federal law, the actual term defined is an assault rifle is capable of fully automatic fire.
When President Biden used the term assault weapons, that's a false, fake term, right?
It's a
because he's not talking about banning fully automatic weapons. He's talking about banning semi-automatic rifles, right?
That's correct. So what happens is
Okay, we don't need to get that's enough. We're going. I go on. What was he talking about?
Well, he was talking about assault weapons, and he wants to enact a ban. But the bans that have been in place, Connecticut, California, New York, and Colorado are 4 of the states that have assault weapon or assault rifle bans, assault weapon ban, and all of them have been sites of mass murder. So there's no way that you can legislate away and say, okay, we're going to define this thing and ban it, and suddenly all this stuff is going to stop. Just not going to happen.
All right. So before the Tennessee shooting, President Biden reported he planned to sign, this is in your article, planned to sign an executive order directing the FBI to step up background checks on would-be gun buyers and even maybe clamp down or investigate firearms dealers in that regard. What do you know about that? Did he actually sign that? And what can you more tell us about that planned executive order?
Okay, so he signed an executive order or two, and it has no effect whatsoever. It's all showtime, because for there are no such things as gun show loopholes. as I explained to former Congressman Langevin in a private meeting when he was advocating, I said, look, every gun dealer that has a federal firearms license will run a background check on any purchaser. It's required. Illegal gun dealers aren't federally licensed, so that if they're dealing it illegally, then there's no effect whatsoever. So the universal background check idea is, again, just a feel-good piece of legislation, or executive order in this case, because there already is legislation that says you have to be checked when you purchase a firearm. You have to fill out a form that you have to
Right.
penalty. It's a penalty if you lie on it.
So Biden's executive order that he signed would do what about that?
Nothing. He's telling the FBI to crack down on it or whatever, and he's saying this will make them truly universal. Well, it's just PR.
So it's just
stuff.
smoke and mirrors. Okay, all right.
Right.
Just to make it look like he's being tough. All right, now let's go to Tennessee, and then let's stick with Biden before we get to the actual shooting. Biden immediately is using that tragedy. I mean, within hours, within a couple of hours, the bodies are probably still laying cold on the school floor, and he's saying what?
Well, he said we have to have this. We have to have this national ban, and yet any state that has it, it's proven to be ineffective. The national ban, after 10 years, the study said there was no correlation between that ban and a reduction in violent crime. And that in 2004, when they did this study, there was far fewer so-called assault weapons or AR-style weapons. Now, one thing to notice, if you look at the video of the shooter in Nashville, the first reports were this was an AR-style rifle. It is not. It's a lot of these modern sporting rifles are black, and they have perforated handguards and ability so you can put a scope on it, whatever. What she's carrying is not an AR, a so-called AR-15 type rifle. And she had several others. The one that was hanging by her side didn't look like it either. So most of the people in the media, Mike, do not even know
What kind of rifle was it?
I don't know what the brand is. You can't tell from the video, but it's not an AR style. It's one of the more modern design.
What makes it different from an AR style rifle?
Well, technically it is not an AR platform. Okay, it is redesigned. It's a different design entirely. It is semi-automatic. It's not fully automatic. And to that point, on State of the State, I interviewed Colonel Jim Manny, former commander of state police, who co-chaired Raimondo's so-called working group on gun safety. He acknowledged that their group of about 40 people, none of them from the Second Amendment community, 40 people could not agree on what an assault rifle is or an assault weapon is.
Yeah, an AR does not stand for assault rifle. It's a brand name, right?
AR means Armalite rifle. It was originally designed and issued by Armalite Corporation.
Right.
So I hope you can see this. Well, let's see if I can. Maybe. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Hold it there. Yep. Hold it still.
So this is a model of a so-called AR. When I showed this to Colonel Manny, I said we went through what the bill that's currently in front of the Rhode Island legislature tries to define it in terms of characteristics. So I went through the characteristics, pointing them. I said, Colonel Manny, which of these makes this more lethal than any other type of semi-automatic rifle? He pointed to this and he said, that, which is the magazine. He said, that's what does it. Well, we now have in Rhode Island a ban on any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds. So technically, if 10 rounds is safe and 11 rounds is lethal, we don't have any need.
So now that in Rhode Island, that AR style weapon is no more dangerous than any other semi-automatic rifle.
Correct.
Right. All right. Now, since you mentioned it, there is a lawsuit on the magazine ban. The primary argument, there are many arguments, the primary argument being that it didn't even grandfather in people who previously owned larger capacities. Right. Just very quickly, I don't think the temporary restraining order was not granted. It's on appeal, right? What is the status of that case as far as you know it?
As far as I know, it's still at appeal at the Circuit Court of Appeals because the Rhode Island judge ruled that it was okay, and now that's under appeal because of some of the statements he made in his ruling.
And the most important issue in that lawsuit, there are many, but is the taking of people who already had these higher capacity mag. In essence, it's government takings, right? Because they can no longer legally possess what was legal less than just a few months ago.
Correct. And he said,
Okay.
you know, that's too bad. It's immaterial.
All right, let's go back to Tennessee and use that as an example. Now, this again, it's another example. As I said on my show earlier in the week, Dick, guns have been around, and they've been around schools for a long time. You're probably old enough. I'm old enough. I don't know if you grew up in a rural enough town. My wife did, and others recall kids coming to school with guns in the back of their rifles, back of their pickup trucks. They drop them up because they're going hunting after school or something like that. Guns have been around our country, around our schools for decades, if not hundreds of years. But it's only recently that we've seen young people start using those guns. So like you said, regardless of what kind, all guns are lethal if they're used improperly. So what has changed is not the guns. What has changed is the people and their willingness to now use them for murder. People have changed. Agree? It's not the guns, it's the people behind them.
I think one of the major problems, Mike, is that our young people are become inured to the idea of using a gun because of these first-person shooter games that are everywhere on available everywhere, and kids use them from early on. I certainly think that the portrayal of the use of firearms in the movies or TV shows is not helpful. I mean, because
all right, so that all adds up to what I want to get to with you. So my contention, I've been saying it quite clearly this week on my show, and I'm going to keep saying it. Between the gaming you talked about, the violence in the gaming, between social media, everyone's paying attention, whether it's TikTok or whatever it is. But even I think mostly in our school systems, we are creating kids who are emotionally unstable, all right, regardless of what's causing it, the gaming, the social media, what they're teaching in schools, to question their God-given gender, to question their parents, to question somebody with a different color skin, to question, to oversaturate them with sex. We're producing, we have psychopaths in our educational system producing psychopathic kids. Okay, that's my assumption. If we've got a lot, if the guns really haven't changed, they're just as lethal now as they were then, or as lethal. But if we're producing more psychopathic kids for whatever reason, you might not agree with me on this, but in Tennessee, like this Tennessee student, she was getting psychiatric help. Her parents knew that she shouldn't have guns, thought she got rid of them all. Do you or do you not agree that a properly constructed red flag law, that we need to keep guns out of these disturbed kids' hands? Your thoughts on that?
I think all legitimate gun owners would like to see guns kept out of the hands of those who are going to use them illegally or misuse them. The problem with red flag laws is that it eliminates due process. We have a red flag law in Rhode Island. Chaz Kalenda, who's prosecuted gun crimes for the Attorney General for 12 years and is now a defense attorney, and he ran for Attorney General, came on the program you and I are involved with, State of the State, and he pointed out that currently there's a requirement that within 2 weeks of the seizure of firearms under this red flag law, the person is entitled to a hearing before the judge who issued the warrant. And he said the problem is there are judges who are anti-gun, and what they simply do is continue the cases over and over and over again until they wear out the person, and they have to give up. Because
I agree. So that's why I said a properly constructed red flag law where due process comes first, right? That would be a properly constructed red flag law here. But Dick, we gotta have families, psychiatrists, businesses. So that when they see danger and they know someone has a weapon, when they see someone like this emotionally unstable person, this woman in Tennessee, there's got to be some legal means with due process first to make sure that person does not possess a firearm. Are we generally in agreement on that?
Yeah, but you gotta tell me how the due process is going to work, because
Of course.
if someone, my next door neighbor, gets in a beef with me over the property line or something, and gets mad, he calls the police and says, "Hey, that Dick August has guns," and he threatened me with a gun. What's the due process? The police are going to come in and seize my guns, or do I get a chance to go before a judge and explain my situation? And if I
Police
have
need to
that,
put you on notice. Maybe they watch you until you have your hearing, and then at the hearing, they decide if they actually will take your weapons away. That's how I would like to. I think just the fact by someone citing you, and I think there also ought to be criminal charges if someone frivolously accuses someone else of not being worthy, just over a stupid dispute. I think we've got to protect against frivolous. That's why I say properly constructed red flag law that has proper incentives, guarantees constitutional due process, and also criminalizes anyone who tries to abuse the law. So that would be my idea on that. All right,
sure.
let's move on.
Okay.
We got about 5 minutes left. So again, just to wrap it up, there's a lot of things, but a properly constructed red flag law, don't you agree it's needed in our society?
The key term is properly constructed, and there's going to be disagreement on what that means, because a lot of people are going to say, all I have to do is make an accusation.
But you could, if you were to write, you could write something down. If you were to write it down, you would say, if you were to write down the construction of that, then you would accept it, right?
If I could write it down.
Yeah, if you could determine it. I mean, there's something that would make you happy in that regard, right? That's all I'm saying. There's something.
I would like to see these guns kept out of those hands. We agree on that.
Fair enough. All right, what else? We got about 3 or 4 minutes left, Dick. Where do you want to go? What else Second Amendment is of interest to you in this state or nationally?
Well, one of the major points with respect to all of this is that so many of these mass shootings are done by people who are mentally unbalanced.
Right.
And in fact, Adam Lanza, from the Newtown thing that really kicked this whole thing off, was clearly an unbalanced individual who was encouraged by his mother. He came from a broken home. There's a very pattern here. And he killed his mother and stole her Bushmaster rifle, which she had trained him on, and went to the school and raised, havoc. You refer to this person in Nashville as a student. She's not a student. She's 28 years old. She left that school 10 years ago.
Yeah, she's a product of the educational system. Yep.
Yeah, but she went to that school, but she obviously didn't go there out of revenge, because it's 10 years ago. She's living with her parents at 28 years old. She obviously has difficulty with her gender identification. And yet her parents, you mean to tell me they couldn't tell that she had 7 firearms in the house that she lives in? I find that hard to believe. You're shaking your head. It's just inconceivable to me how you could have someone living with you who collect 7 firearms, and you know that they have some mental difficulties, and you don't know about it. That's crazy. That's just I'm trying to get out of trouble here with with the police on as a parent, and I feel badly for her parents. And thank God the police were there, and they took direct violent action and ended the threat. Now, she had 14 minutes to roam the halls shooting people. So it wasn't like she went into a classroom and just started open firing. Even if she had a non-assault rifle, in 14 minutes, she certainly could have killed 6 people.
Yeah, you could do it with a 22 6-shooter handgun. You could do that damage.
Correct. Sure. Yeah. So.
Right, you're right. So it has nothing. It's not like she just went boom, 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 in a whole classroom, right? Yeah, and and to show you how emotionally disturbed she was, doesn't have much to do with our debate, but for the last few minutes, she was just shooting shots out the window, apparently just waiting for the police to arrive and kill her. I mean, this was definitely suicide by cop. So this was a truly emotionally disturbed person who should never have had firearms. What last minute, just what else are the Second Amendment, the Moms Defending, Demanding Action group, what else are they pushing for in Rhode Island right now to infringe on our rights? Got about 1 minute.
Their highest priority item is an assault weapons ban. Their second highest priority is called the Safe Storage Act, which means that anybody owns a gun, you're going to be responsible for keeping that under lock and key or some safe mechanism that's going to be defined in the law, or else you're going to be liable if it's used improperly.
Only if it's used improperly. They can't come into your home and say, hey, do you have your gun stored if there's been no crime? They can't do that, can they?
Well, that's the question, is how is it going to be enforced?
All right.
If that law passes and I decide not to lock up my guns, the police aren't going to.
Yeah, if someone comes over for dinner and they see my gun in the corner, could they call the police on me, right? Even though no crime's been committed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dick August, I hope you'll continue to write columns for the Current, pointing out local and national Second Amendment issues. And I can guarantee you we'll have you back on to talk more. Thank you, Dick August.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good day.